I believe that Trump wants a world where he can open up, a newspaper if he reads that, or look
Hmm.
online and see only glowing things about him,
Yeah,
like North Korea. And if he doesn't get
right.
that, he's upset. But I am really concerned about the
Yeah,
press, and I would
me
love to
too.
know. Yeah, I mean, this is and it's one thing when they go after big media, legacy media, and
Yeah.
they acquiesce, but what happens when a I don't know, a TikTok creator gets a cease and desist from the Department of Justice?
Yeah.
What happens when they can somehow tackle YouTube? Uh, and this is one of those things. Like I hear people say, Jim, well, we've been here before. We are America. We've been here before. I'm like, there are some things. I know Lincoln did some things with the press, during the Civil War, but
Yeah.
that was in the middle of war. Like, this is very unusual, and he has
Yeah.
an entire party behind. At least Barry Goldwater told Richard Nixon to resign. But you've been at the
Yeah.
forefront
Yeah.
of this. What do you think about the freedom of the press?
Well, Clay, as you know, I mean, they took away my press pass during the first Trump administration. We had to
Yes,
go to
they did.
court to get it back. And it was a Trump appointed judge who gave me my press pass back. And so Trump is going to run into more problems with the courts because the courts are, I mean, he's got his buddies in the Supreme Court. There's no question about it. But at the district level, circuit level, appellate level, he's going to have to deal with judges who are going to say, you know what, there's this thing called the Constitution, the First Amendment, the right to free speech, the right to freedom of the press. And you just can't toss that overboard because your feelings are getting hurt when people criticize you. I mean, first, I mean, you have to say, first of all, of all the presidents we've had in the history of this country, he is probably the most delicate of delicate flowers. If you just if just a slight breeze blows and messes up his hair a little bit, he just can't handle it. I mean, he's that sensitive. He's that much of a shrinking violet when it comes to his feelings. And so, the press is doing their job. I'm very concerned of what's taking place at the White House right now, where they've kicked out the Associated Press out of the Oval Office, off of Air Force One, because they won't refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, which is this like Fox News brain fart that just popped out of Trump's head. I've been describing him lately as kind of the old see and say. Remember those little toys you pull
Hmm.
the string and it would say, "This is a
Yeah.
duck, this is a cow." And it just the wheel spins around in Trump's head. And one moment he wants to talk about Gulf of America, and it spins around again, and then he wants to talk about tariffs. And there's really not a whole lot of thought. I mean, this has been my observation of him for years. There's just not a whole lot of thought that goes into really any of his utterances. And so for the Associated Press, which has been around for decades, is in all 50 states. They have reporters in all 50 states. Billions of people read their material around the world. For them to be kicked out of the White House, Oval Office or Air Force One because they won't succumb to that kind of silliness, to me is an assault on their First Amendment rights. And so I'm hoping that a judge will do something about it. Just the other day, they started saying at the White House that they can select who's going to be in the press pool, the people who go into the Oval Office on Air Force One. And the White House Correspondents Association, just this week, it was reported by Oliver Darcy, the White House Correspondents Association has essentially said the White House is in charge of the press pool. Now, that is, you mentioned North Korea. That is what goes on in totalitarian, authoritarian countries like Russia and North
Mm.
Korea. I mean, does Donald Trump want Caroline Levitt to read the news like the North Korean lady does, with the mountains behind her when they show the state
Yeah.
TV? Is that what we want? We're going to put Caroline Levitt in front of some mountains and she's going to read the little script about what a dear leader Trump is. We don't want that kind of situation in this country. It's just not the way we do things here.
Let me ask you. So on this show, we all obviously talk about how race intersects with politics, and although Trump did better with, I mean, a couple percentage points, he didn't do Richard Nixon or Gerald Ford numbers with black voters.
Yeah.
He did better with Hispanic voters, but I always say there are white Hispanics and black Hispanics and indigenous Hispanics. But 8 out of 10 of Trump's voters were white. And for the life of me, and I was saying this with Don when you were on air, and I don't know if you have some insight as far as being a journalist for years and being on these streets. I
Yeah.
don't understand why middle class white folks or poor white folks would vote for the person that wants to gut their snap, gut their
Yeah.
wick, gut unemployment, gut Social
That's right.
Security. It just, I mean, and poor white folks have been lied to, and they've been falling
Yeah.
for way too long. Even back to the frickin' Civil War, when they were saying, if we end slavery, you're not going to have any jobs. But what is going? Just
Yeah.
there's this.
No.
Even veterans, even white veterans.
No.
What do you think of this?
There's a lot of, I mean, a lot of thoughts there. I mean, there was a book written a while back called "What's the Matter with Kansas," and it delves
Yes.
into a lot of these issues and why people vote against their own self-interest. This is why the Kennedys believed in going to places like West Virginia, and Mississippi and the Deep South, to try to connect with voters. And some Democrats have done it well, and some Democrats have been just absolutely horrible at this. And it's one of the reasons why I'm kind of dumbfounded why there are Democratic leaders right now who are just kind of missing this moment when people are rising up from all political stripes and saying, we need some relief. We need somebody to stand in Trump's way, to stand in Elon Musk's way. And why the Democrats are throwing that opportunity to the side, to me, is I mean, it's astounding. But I mean, to your point, to your question, couple of things. I mean, one is I don't think Democrats and Latinos like myself really should waste any time going after one another and saying, "Oh, it's your fault." No, it's your fault. Why Donald Trump's in the Oval Office? You're absolutely right. By and large, Trump's base of support comes from white Americans and from all income levels and so on. And to me, it's about having an opportunity agenda for the Democratic Party, for having a people's agenda inside the Democratic Party, protecting programs like Head Start, protecting programs like SNAP, protecting programs like the Affordable Care Act, which, by the way, has very good, I mean, good numbers on its side. And, the fact that they're talking about going after Medicaid, the Republicans are talking about going after Medicaid as part of this current budget process, to me, the number of rural hospitals that would go under if you were to take a meat axe to Medicaid, it would blow a lot of people's minds if they were to understand just how many rural hospitals would either convert to emergency room only care or just go out of business. And I mean, people need to wake up as to what's going to happen in this country if the Democrats just say, okay, we're just going to roll over and play possum for the next 2 years
Oh
until the
God.
midterms. People do not want that. My sense of it is people do not want that. James Carville has talked about this idea of just letting Trump fall flat on his face and Democrats getting out of the way. That might not be a bad, idea, but the problem is what happens between now and when Trump falls on his face politically. That to me is the issue. And so I really think that what you're seeing right now is a lot of white Americans saying, whoa, I didn't vote for this. I didn't vote for all these tariffs that are going to affect my business. I'm in California right now. My sister works in the wine business. I was talking to a winemaker at the winery where she works, and she and I are both blue collar people. So please don't get the sense that we grew up with a silver spoon in our mouth with champagne in our Cheerios. I was talking to the winemaker yesterday, and he was saying that these tariffs that are going to come into place are going to really impact the local industry out here, really impact all kinds of American industries in ways that we just haven't even thought about. And so, Clay, people are waking up to the reality of what's happening
I
right
hope.
now. Question is whether
But Jim,
Democrats respond.
Kamala Harris laid out an agenda for the middle class. Kamala Harris
Yeah,
was sitting down with Liz Cheney and chit chatting. Like she
yeah,
had, I mean, Trump said when his McDonald's drag that he wasn't even going to,
yeah,
he didn't want to, he didn't believe in raising the minimum wage. He even
yeah,
alluded to there shouldn't be a federal minimum wage. Like Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton, but especially Kamala Harris, went
yeah.
on and on about an agenda for the middle class, and it
She did.
still didn't work.
She did. I do think that her agenda, if I may offer a slight criticism, might have been a bit too timid. People were really dealing with inflation. They were just reeling from higher prices. I for the life of me, and I was saying this, to friends who would listen to me, when they don't get tired of listening to me during that campaign, you know, why a Democrat wasn't out there saying, let's send gas cards out to people. You get a gas card in the
Mm.
mail. Kamala Harris should have been saying, we're going to send gas cards to people in the mail with her face and name on it that says, here's, $50 off your next 5 tanks of gas. Trump used to send checks in the mail. George W. Bush used to send checks in the mail. Why she wasn't talking about that out on the campaign trail, to me, was a little too timid on her part. She was talking about giving people, yes, some help here and there to start a business, help here and there, yes, to own a home. But I think, there should have been bolder ideas put forward. And it was almost as though she was trying to win that election by 50.1 percentage points versus really taking it to Donald Trump. You can go down the list. Clearly, there were lots of things that you can criticize with that campaign. When she was asked on The View, what would you do differently than Joe Biden? And she said, I can't really think of something. There were just moments during that campaign where frankly, she just kind of blew it. And Trump reaped the rewards of that. I do think there was a real backlash against inflation in that election that Democrats just were too timid about.
Yeah, I hear you, but I also think, Jim, that even on her worst day, she was better than Trump on his best day.
Oh my God.
This man had concepts of a plan.
The way she destroyed him in that debate. No.
Isn't it crazy?
It was a masterclass.
Nothing matters.
And that's why I just said, that's why I was saying, if I may just offer a very faint criticism of what she was doing. I'm not saying she was a bad candidate. I thought she was actually a very good candidate at times. And that debate was the high watermark of the campaign. I do think that Trump has this ability to pull the wool over people's eyes, P.T. Barnum, Harry Houdini, whatever you want to call it. That is just, it's sort of like otherworldly. It's a metaphysical power that he has that, scientists will study for decades to come. But you almost have to go toe to toe with him, and you have to go at him in ways that throws him off his game. And I think maybe this is part of the reason why he would get so pissed off at me when I was covering him at the White House, because my dad worked in grocery stores for 40 years. My mom worked in restaurants her whole life. I know how to talk to people like they're sitting on a bar stool. And there are moments, I think, when leading Democrats just don't know how to use that kind of language. And it's just a little too much of the King's English, and they're not communicating with the voters where they are. And I think there were some moments where she just kind of missed that. I also think Trump shamelessly hid from her in terms of having other debates.
Hell yeah. Which she could have never. Can you imagine if she would have said no more debates? And then also, Democrats have not been able to figure out what I call Southern Strategy 2.0 tactics. Once upon a time, it was the welfare queen. It was the Willie Horton ad. Now it's trans. Immigrants.
Shameless.
This is some new shit, the new otherism that Democrat, and even Walter Mondale couldn't figure it out. Michael Dukakis couldn't figure it out when that Willie Horton ad comes out in '88. It's some new sick, evil shit. It's strange.
It was evil. The trans ads were evil. Let's just say it. That is just. I would watch football. I'm a big football fan. I watch college football, NFL games. My Commanders were having a great season last season, and I'm a born and raised Washingtonian from that area, so it's not like I'm a front runner or anything like that. But those ads would come on, and they were just absolutely sinister, absolutely nasty, sinister shit. And it turned a lot of people from Democrats into Trump supporters. And I will say, one of the things I should also mention, having been to Trump rally after Trump rally after Trump rally over the years, this has been a slow but steady, attack on the part of the Trump people in terms of getting Democrats to come over to their side of the fence. I would go to these Trump rallies and I would see people in construction boots and Carhartt jackets, looking like they just came off the factory floor at their union shop. And these are people that, to me, having covered politics for a long time, covered 6 presidential elections, these folks just look like Democrats to me who are at Trump rallies. And the Democrats have got to do something to get those people back. And it seems to me right now, like what Chuck Schumer is doing and siding with the CR and some of the Democratic leadership, and like being a little timid in terms of what to do about Trump. they're missing a moment, man. They're just missing a moment where the people are rising up and saying, we are pissed and we're not going to take this anymore. And to me, it seems it's a golden opportunity for the Democratic Party right now to get working people back on their side and say, we're with the working people. And they're just not doing it right now. And what do you want? A third party? You want an independent party? That might just hand the next couple of elections back to the Republicans.